Number 15. Resplendent Quetzal. Native to forest regions across Mexico, Guatemala, and Panama, the resplendent quetzal is undoubtedly one of the most beautiful species of bird in the world, and not even the name lives up to how stunning a creature it is. Usually growing to around 16 inches long, as well as having tail streamers that can be as much as 30 inches long, they have mainly iridescent green bodies, with a wide variety of other colors speckled throughout. Because of the size of their tails, they aren't particularly good at flying, so are more often seen hopping along branches in search of insects and fruit to feed on. They do, however, spend most of their lives high up in the tree canopy, and can fly for short bursts if needed. Due to the way they look, resplendent quetzals have long been an integral part of culture and folklore in the area, so much so that they're the national birds of Guatemala, where the currency is named after them, and they also feature on the country's flag and coat of arms. In Mesoamerican cultures, the resplendent quetzal was considered a divine bird that was linked with the snake god, Quetzalcoatl, and it was seen as a heinous crime to be responsible for killing one. Still, that hasn't prevented collectors from taking large numbers in recent decades, which along with habitat destruction means that this incredible species is now considered to be near threatened.
Number 14. Arctic fox. Growing up to 30 inches long, the Arctic fox is one of the smaller species of fox, but because of the environment it lives, it has developed some of the most stunning features of any canine. They're found throughout the Arctic, where they hunt small creatures they encounter, such as lemmings, seal pups, fish, and birds, and also eat vegetation like berries and seaweed. To survive in such a cold environment, they grow thick, warm coats that are almost perfectly white to help them camouflage in with their surroundings. Even their fur doesn't protect them fully from the cold, however, so they build their dens in sheltered spots and are able to curl up into tiny balls, with their feet and heads tucked in beneath their bodies and tails to keep as much warmth in as possible. Such is their suitability to this climate and the fact they only start shivering once temperatures have plummeted. Found in rainforests across Southeast Asia in countries like Malaysia, Thailand, and Indonesia, the four legs that they use for walking have purposefully evolved to mimic the petals of the flowers. Amazingly, they're able to alter their color from shades of light pink to dark brown, depending on the environment.
Butterflies will swoop in thinking they'll be able to feed on the nectar, but instead the mantis strikes with its toothed arms, delivers a powerful bite, and then devours it in a flash before returning to the plant to attract its next victim. Because of the way they look, orchid mantises are one of the most sought-after species of insects by collectors, but because they're so rare and are extremely difficult to find, leopard, which is native to regions around the Himalayas in Southeast Asia and China. Usually growing to around 3 or 4 feet long with a further 2 or 3 foot long tail, they're a nocturnal species that sleeps during the day in trees and emerges at night to hunt for prey on the forest floor. Covered in thin fur which has gray, brown, and black patches and stripes that almost look like clouds, their long tails give them extraordinarily good balance, which means they can run vertically down a tree trunk head first at just a moment's notice. Normally solitary animals, they also have powerful legs that allow them to jump 4 feet high from a standing start, and they've been seen to effortlessly leap between tree branches over huge distances. Unfortunately, despite there once being large populations of snow leopards, a combination of habitat destruction along with hunting and their capture for zoos around the world has meant they are now in sharp decline in the wild, with fewer than 10,000 thought to exist. In some regions, they're now completely gone, and while efforts have been made to protect them and breed them in captivity, it's beginning to seem like a losing battle, and it may not be long until it's no longer possible to see them in their natural habitats. Vibrantly colored fish, but there's one that's found in the Pacific Ocean that's leagues above the rest, the mandarin fish. Growing to just 3 or 4 inches long, they're found in the warmer waters between Japan and Australia, and because of their incredible patterns were named after the robes that were once worn by the respected members of Imperial Chinese society. They feed on small crustaceans, so even though they live on reefs, they're usually bottom dwellers and are very difficult to spot. They're quite unusual in the way that the blue pigment is actually present within the cells of their skin, whereas most other fish either have it in their scales, and this has happened because mandarin fish don't actually have scales, and instead protect themselves with a thin layer of smelly and foul-tasting slime, which probably deters predators from trying to eat them. Unsurprisingly, they become very popular in the aquarium trade, with owners looking for some magic to add to their tanks. But mandarin fish are renowned for being an extremely difficult species to look after because of their precise dietary requirements, namely the fact they'll normally only be happy if they have a snake when considering the most beautiful animals in the world, but the California red-sided garter snake is far from ordinary. As the name suggests, it's a species that's native to western North America, and it has some of the most stunning coloration and patterning of any species. When they reach adulthood, they're normally between 20 to 40 inches long and usually have a red body that's broken up with a series of blue, yellow, and black stripes and blotches.
Only serves to accentuate their hues. They don't pose any risk to humans and only hunt small animals like rodents and amphibians. But because of the way they look, they've been a popular target for hunters and collectors. This, along with increased habitat destruction, has meant their population numbers have drastically reduced over the past century, and they're now classified as an endangered species. Lilac-breasted roller. There are countless stunning birds across the African continent, but if you're in the sub-Saharan region, in countries like Namibia, Botswana, and Tanzania, you may well get the chance to see one of the most beautiful of all, the lilac-breasted roller. Growing up to 15 inches long, including their tails, this species can most often be found perching at the very tops of trees, and using this vantage point to survey the land around them in search of lizards, scorpions, snails, and rodents that they can prey upon.
Partners.
The
Just
lilac-breasted
because they
roller
look cute
is
doesn't mean they're friendly at all. However, because they're also known as being an extremely aggressive species when they need to be. They'll do everything they can to defend their nests, including attacking raptors and other birds much larger than themselves. And because they put up so much of a fight, they're usually successful in deterring predators from reaching their precious eggs.
tiger.
Largest species of wild cat, tigers are some of the most majestic creatures in the world. But while most take on the characteristic orange coloration with black stripes, there are some that are even more special. Occasionally, a tiger is born with leucism, which means that its coat doesn't produce any orange pigment at all and is white instead, but still with the black stripes. These white tigers are extremely rare and are thought to be born once every 10,000 births. With an estimated 3,000 to 4,000 tigers existing in the wild across the Indian subcontinent at any one time, it's something that only happens once every 2 or 3 generations. Leucism happens because of a predictable genetic defect, however, which means that in captivity the trait can be bred, and because white tigers are in such high demand for zoos and performances, there are now believed to be around 300 of them worldwide. This is an ethically dubious thing, because it can result in unhealthy inbred animals, especially as there's also demand for stripeless white tigers, something that's even rarer and more difficult to achieve, and means far more tigers are bred in captivity than there should be. Despite the concerns, there's nothing quite as amazing as seeing a naturally born white tiger, and it's one of the most spectacular creatures the natural world